Now, I could be wrong, but I think the game's come a long way. Hello, I've been working on Cavern for quite a while now, and I've been in this room for quite a while, and I'm still picking away at it. I've been working on a new area. This new area is sort of a brimstone, volcanic rock kind of area. So the game's noise generation system is pretty robust. This is the first kind of new area that I'm making, so I made this little noise tool to kind of help me visualize the way walls might spawn in the level. The darker pixels are walls, the lighter pixels are the floor. Some of the different areas use different noise types, different noise algorithms, and I can adjust how it samples the noise for the walls, how many octaves, how granular it is, and then along with that I can decide how it places objects away from the walls, as well as the visual patterns throughout the terrain, such as whether it's sand or dirt or the different variation colors and things like that. You can see here overview of some of the first cavern area levels and how they compare to the newer levels. I do want them to be a little bit larger and a bit more hostile. Some of the new objects that I've been making are the terrain deformer. So this is Shannon's main use case. You can see a bunch of gameplay in this video that I uploaded. The terrain deformer sort of slowly picks away at terrain around it, and it's Shannon's sort of only tool to damage enemies. You can actually use the hot swap mechanic to sort of spam swap this object to get it to reproc a bunch. Some of the new objects that I've been making for the new area include the urn. This is kind of like a better pot or different pot. It has a couple different drop chances, and it always drops a cobweb when it dies. Another object is the gravestone. When you hit it, it has a chance to spawn a ghost, and that ghost will sort of follow and attack you. The ghost kind of swirls around you, it can go through walls, it will follow you, and it will try to charge at you when it's close enough. They're pretty easy to dodge, but you'll probably be accidentally spawning a bunch of these while you're fighting something else, so it's kind of something for the player to deal with. Additionally, the ghost can't be hit by physical damage, they can only be hit by other types of damage. This object is the iron shield. This is pretty much just kind of a power crept version of the wooden shield. It has more health, and it also has a very low chance to drop an armor piece on hit, so it can be quite good for picking up and carrying around. This item is probably one of the more complex items that I've been working on, which is the spiked club. The cool thing about this spiked club is that it actually has spikes equipped to it. So it might just look like, oh, this is kind of a weak weapon. But if you can swap out those spikes for something else, you can actually attach anything you want to it, like a fire, a bullet, or a boulder, or even a shovel. Meaning, with something like the boulder, it typically has very high cooldown, it does a lot of damage. You can kind of negate the cooldown by attaching it to this club. Additionally, with the shovel, you can kind of extend its range. Now, a few of you might be thinking, can I attach a club to a club? I'm not going to have this in the final game, but this is more of a proof of concept here. There will be other objects like this that you'll be able to sort of string along, and they have additive range. So ultimately you'll be able to make like the death tower stick and one-shot everything. Alright, we're lagging the game. The Sparkler Spiked Club. Sparkler Spiked Club, easy. You can attach a shovel to the end of this and dig out very large sections of terrain. It's pretty satisfying, but this is kind of what the swap mechanic is intended for. It's like this will never appear normally in the game, but you will be able to create it through sort of conscious use of, oh, there's an object there. What happens if I swap it into this? And I think that's pretty cool. The last object here I have is a magma slime. This is another enemy. I'm still working on this one, but it'll slowly jump around, and this one will drop a little magma piece, and it will burn you on hit instead of deal damage. I've got an extra upgrade for this week as well. This is called the Survival Matrix. It just gives objects you spawn 400% health, so they essentially 4x their health. This is useful in certain situations like spawning enemies, because then they can attack and they'll survive longer. And then additionally, there's a reason it's also useful, which I'll talk about in the next upcoming section. You can wishlist the game in the description of this video if you are interested in the game. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for watching. Along with wishlisting Cavern, you can also support me by purchasing Bunny Hill on Steam or my game Airstar. Both are out on Steam. Both should be on sale when this video goes live. But thank you for watching. So the next thing that I added here is damage modifiers. So this was kind of a way to have certain other factors scale into the damage and not have to program it for each item specifically. So this is kind of a cover-all system where I can say some stat correlates to some amount of damage by multiplier or by, just pure number or something. For example here, this geode will steal the gems from these gem walls, and the geode will actually deal damage equal to the number of gems it has. So you can see here I'm dealing like 24 or 30 damage as it scales. So if you can kind of keep this thing equipped or find a way to destroy terrain without having to unequip it, without having to put it down, you can kind of keep it and rack up a bunch of gems and snowball into a good position. Another example is that boulder. The boulder now has 15 health, and so it does damage equal to its health, which is quite a lot for the beginning of the game. At 15, it'll one-shot most everything, but an upgrade like Survival Matrix, which we talked about earlier, which multiplies the health of an object, will give the boulder a ton of damage. So there are going to be unique interactions like that to discover as a player, and I'll have upgrades, or I'll have objects in the future that correlate to move speed and other things like that. Somebody asked me to cover some sound design stuff, so thanks for reaching out. Most of the sounds are kind of found object Foley that I record myself. Ocean sound effect. Is this a bottle? Where I do something like that, and then I take a glass breaking sound effect. Along with real sounds and the freesound.org stuff, I'll usually edit those in FL Studio, and the best two tools that I use for this are EQ and pitch. EQ just kind of lets you get rid of the highs and lows, or kind of modify what's present in a sound. Is also partially, like how I place sounds. And pitch helps me place the sounds in terms of their brightness or darkness. I try to keep sounds as crisp or as original as possible, so not a ton of filtering, but I do try to allow sounds to have their own space. Meaning, if sound is super high frequency or high pitch, I try to limit it to that so that other sounds can crop up in the sound design. If it's a background element, I can have it, more washed out across the spectrum. but it'll just be lower volume. A lot of it is just tweaking sounds, putting them in the game, tweaking them some more until it sounds good. I'm not really a good sound designer or musician, so kind of just doing my best here. Also, since the game is in a cave, I use a little bit of reverb. A few quality of life things I've added is this init menu. So this is the first time you boot up the game, you'll see this. You won't see it again after that, but it just kind of lets you pick a language and adjust sound levels before I put you into the first cutscene. I've also added a skip cutscene button. I've added a soft lock button. This is for if you get stuck, you can spawn a pot which all the characters can swap. And on certain difficulty modes, this soft lock pot will actually add an anomaly. It's meant as a punishment for sort of being inattentive. A lot of the levels can actually beat some way once you have enough swap abilities and once you kind of like get a grasp on the mechanics, but it's nice to have this button there. I've also updated the hot swap UI to be much better. It looks a lot better now, I think. I've also hid the player UI for certain things, like the archer can't equip any objects, so she doesn't get the hand for the equipment in the player UI. I've also added a notification system when you log a new object, a new swap ability, or when you defeat a boss, when you unlock a character, or when you pick up an upgrade. These all go to the dictionary, which is your way of keeping track of objects in the game where you can read about them, strategize, things like that. And then finally, I've added my logo to the start screen. I try to be genuine on here. I try to say, you know, thank you for watching, because I mean it. You know, I want to make a good game, and all the feedback and all the comments, that's what makes it better. So, you guys are really part of the development, even if it doesn't feel like it. Happy holidays. I'll keep chipping away at it. Thank you, danke. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.